Welcome back. We are back to episode 39 of the 31305 podcast, brought to you by Tostitos. No, we don't have a sponsor. As always, joined by Taylor, as we had to go on a little 3 week hiatus. Mainly my fault, also with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce starting to date. We just wanted to avoid that entire shitstorm and stop vomiting on screen. Over the same amount of coverage it's gotten the last few weeks, but
I'm tired of watching that shit. I don't care.
yeah, at Thursday Night Football, Al Michaels even said that he only mentioned it twice during the broadcast, which compared to how ESPN and CBS have
And
done it, like,
the first game was unwatchable. It was
yeah,
genuinely that bad.
they were just like, "Oh my gosh, look, Travis Kelce caught a pass!" Immediately pans to the press
Yeah.
box or the suite. But how have the last 3 weeks been for you, Taylor? I know a lot of
Hey
sport
man,
watching.
dude, this might be the greatest 3 week stretch of sports in my lifetime. The Michigan Wolverines are undefeated, number 2 team in the country. I think they might be the best team in the country. The Arizona Diamondbacks are in the NLCS. Who would have thought that going into the last month of the season? Uh, the Detroit Lions. Alex, what's their record?
5-1.
And where does that put them in the league?
I think that is first in the NFC or tied for first in the NFC and the
They are
NFL.
tied for first in the NFL. I don't
Yeah,
know if
NFL.
I've ever been able to say that about the Detroit Lions in my
You
lifetime
haven't.
this far into a season. So the Detroit Lions 5-1, Dolphins 5-1. It's been an amazing 3 weeks of sports. Um, I'm just hockey's back. That's good.
I saw.
I'm excited about that. So yeah, I've just been on like a euphoric trip the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and Auburn's doing really well too. You know their football programs.
Yeah,
We won't mention them.
they got dookied on last week by LSU. It's bad. They are not going to be
Yeah,
good this year, but next year when they get a quarterback, they'll be fine.
yeah. But I agree. I mean, it's been really good watching the Dolphins being so successful. Like you said, all the teams you root for, Michigan, the D-backs have been doing really well. And we'll start with baseball, which we ignored for the last couple episodes before the playoffs started, but we do have some playoffs to recap and look forward to. We have games tonight, as always. We'll start with the Philadelphia Phillies, who I gotta say they're the favorite to come out of the National League. No offense to your Diamondbacks, or I
Oh
know we
yeah,
only
no,
lost game one.
none taken.
But man, they call it Red October for a reason because the Phillies have been the best home team in all of baseball. They haven't lost a home game yet. They swept the Marlins in two. They got rid of the almighty Braves in four. Honestly, their pitching was amazing against the Braves. Acuna had a terrible series. Riley didn't do much. And they're currently on a 1-0 lead of the D-backs. They hit up Zach Gallen last night. The first, two pitches he threw?
Yeah, the Schwarber leadoff bomb on the first pitch, and then got an out, and then Harper first pitch. They were both just center fastballs at 92, bombed them, and that was it.
Yeah. What do you make of the Phillies so far? And honestly, Citizens Bank Park. I mean, that playoff atmosphere, even other announcers have been saying they have been underrating it until this postseason run.
I mean, I'm not going to speak good about them because the Diamondbacks are playing them in this playoff series. Um,
Yeah.
Philly fans suck. Philly sucks as a city. Fuck Philly in all of their sports. But no, Citizens Bank is definitely electric. You could feel it like watching the game. Everyone stands up. It's definitely a home field advantage. Probably one of the best in the league. They're just so good. I mean, Kyle Schwarber's batting like what .9 throughout the regular season and hit 47 home runs. Um, I mean, he's a defensive liability, but yeah, you got a DH spot, I guess, for him. They're just top to bottom. I mean, Bryce Harper in the playoffs, we know how good he is. Probably one of the best playoff performers of all time. And he's showing it now. Almost got injured in that game against it was a game 4 against the Braves where Matt Olson
It
ran into
was
him.
on the first base.
Yeah, it looked like he might have like blew his elbow out, came back, and he's fine. They're scary. They are absolutely the favorites, I think, to win the World Series, especially looking to see how bad Houston's been in the other series. Texas, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not buying into them yet. I guess I should since they've steamrolled through the playoffs. But the way Philly's been playing is just out of this world.
I think it's crazy because they have the most footage on Twitter of just no commentary, crowd noise for every reaction, right? for like a huge home run is done, and they just cut away the commentary audio, and it's deafening, like the
Yeah,
background noise of the fans. It's been crazy. Um, I think they have a great shot to, like you said, win the World Series. It'll depend how the D-backs respond tonight, but I think I got to give credit to the D-backs also for getting to this position. You know, they had 84 wins in the regular season, tied for the last wild card. They were the last wild card team in, and they not only beat Milwaukee in the wild card round, which everybody was saying, "Ooh, watch out for Milwaukee's pitching." They screwed them over 2 games in Wisconsin, but then they sweep the rival Dodgers. How did that make you feel with all the biased commentary TBS was providing too, to beat them game 3 in Arizona, jump in the pool and celebrate against a rival?
that was crazy. Bob Costas might be the biggest like Dodger fan ever. I could not listen to that to that commentary. It was just so bad. Anytime the Diamondbacks, they made history and hit 4 home runs in an inning. First time in playoff history, and Bob Costas, the announcer, couldn't be any less excited than he was. Um, but yeah, going back to a team that made the playoffs on the second to last day of the year, came into the playoffs on a 4 game losing streak. Then you have to go to Milwaukee and face Corbin Burns, and was supposed to be Brandon Woodruff, who ended up being out for the maybe even next year too, with some sort of shoulder injury. But yeah, they rocked Corbin Burns. They rocked Freddie Peralta. Came back from behind in both those games to win, and then yeah, going to LA and just absolutely demolishing Clayton Kershaw. Doesn't He didn't even get out of the first.
Crazy.
I
It could
mean,
be his
he
last home start
yeah
as a Dodger because he's a free agent after this year.
yeah, and he got shelled in the first, and I don't know. I didn't think they were going to beat the Brewers, but then they did. I didn't think they'd have a chance in hell to beat the Dodgers, but I don't know. I guess teams just get hot. We saw it last year with Philly being a wild card team. They made it all the way to the World Series. Um, Arizona kind of on the same run. I think they're probably going to get stopped by Philly. I think tonight is a must-win game for Arizona. You cannot go back to the desert down 2-0. Now, I will say, I think this best of seven format favors the road team
Yeah, because they get all the
because
games.
all you have to do is win one game, one of the first two on the road. If you get that, you get 3 games in a row at home. Now, granted,
Yeah.
are you going to win all three? No, but if you take 2 of those 3, you're going back on the road up 3-2. Just need another split. So, I mean, I guess if there's anything, they've got that going for them. But Zach Gallen looked terrible yesterday. Zach Wheeler, the better Zach, I guess, just rolled through. I think he got 15 straight outs after Corbin Carroll's broken bat bloop single to lead off the game. But
Hmm.
they're throwing Aaron Nola tonight, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron Nola versus Merrill Kelly is going to be good. I just don't. I have full faith in the Phillies right now. They mash, and that's in October. You need a team that's going to hit home runs. The Diamondbacks proved to not really be that during the regular season, and then out of nowhere just hit home runs in the postseason like they've been holding back. Um, if we win one game, I'm happy. This is extra baseball for the Diamondbacks. Was the team that we didn't think was going to make the playoffs a week out, and now they're in the NLC as a top 4 team in the league. And I'll take one game. Just give us one win, and I'm good with that.
And it's kind of funny because like these teams are somewhat mirroring in clutch hitting and good pitching, like Merrill Kelly, Zach Allen, obviously Zach Wheeler, Aaron Noah, and they're really clutch. Even the D-backs yesterday or Sunday when they played, um,
Yesterday,
yeah, yesterday. They don't give up. Like they still scored 3 runs in innings six
yeah,
and
they
seven to
did.
make it a ball game, right? So the Phillies are very similar. You know, the Phillies will come up with key hits in the seventh and eighth inning, ninth inning. So it's going to be fun to see which bullpen is ending up the one to shut down the other. It ended up being kind of Philly yesterday, but the D-backs also stopped the bleeding initially to make it so it's just 5-0. It could have been way worse, after Gallen left. So I think it'll be good to see. Obviously, the offenses are electric, but can each pitching staff hold it well enough that they can get to the bullpen?
Yeah, I think tonight's a must win. Merrill Kelly hopefully is able to settle down the home run ball. Hasn't really given up a ton of home runs, so maybe that's the answer to this Phillies lineup. But 1 through 9, the Phillies are so good. Just if Kyle Schwarber's hitting leadoff bombs, there's nothing you can do, especially when you got Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos, all elite players. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, one win and I'm happy. I don't have too much faith in them winning the series, but who thought they were going to beat the Dodgers and who thought they'd beat the Brewers. So it's baseball. You got to play the game. I just I just don't think they're going to play it very well. But still a
A team you,
successful season.
no, yeah, for
And
sure.
you got to think like I'm just going off on a tangent, but like a team like this, not really a big free agent destination. After this, you're going to start seeing people. We're already early in the rebuild. You're going to start attracting some better free agents. I think this might have been the best, obviously the best case scenario, but another, I guess, consequence of the best case scenario is now you're going to draw in new free agents and better players to come play next year when they should actually be able to take the next step when we thought they would.
But don't count them out yet. Like you said, they got a game to play tonight, so we'll see if they can come
Yeah.
back and win tonight. So don't look at the off season just yet. You still got some baseball play. So
I preemptively looked at World Series tickets. Um,
you're still looking for the off season to
it's
do free
hey man, it
agents.
started with a two,
Yeah.
but it just had four numbers in it.
Oh God. Well, a team that you also had a lot of faith in, besides your hometown D-backs, was the Texas Rangers, and they're proving you right. I mean, you did pick them to win the division after so many flopping between the Mariners and the Astros just during the regular season of the standings, and they have dominated these playoffs. I mean, the upstart Orioles, right? Or let's start first in the wild card round. The Rays, the best team to ever start a baseball season, and they sweep them in Tampa. No real home court advantage for the Rays either, but still, they absolutely destroy them 2-0.
Did you see
They
the
go,
pictures from that stadium?
oh yeah, they had less
It's
fans in their
bad.
playoff game than the Royals did in the last game of the season.
Yeah,
Like
it's bad.
now, I do have to say it doesn't excuse them, but scheduling a 4 o'clock playoff game on a Tuesday in Florida
That's
Eastern
what I'm
time zone
saying.
is also the worst decision baseball could make. Why? Why would
That's
you schedule a
that's
4 o'clock game? People work.
that's what we have. We have a 2 o'clock game on Thursday. Game three of our series is on Tuesday or on Thursday at 2 o'clock.
Like, why? They can't accommodate. Like, people will stay up to watch the baseball games. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I think it was a terrible decision by the MLB to do that.
I don't
But
know why they do it at all.
I don't know. But the Rangers took it too. I mean, their pitching was amazing against the Rays, and it continued against the Orioles. I mean, the Orioles won 100 games this year, won the AL East, and it didn't really feel like they were in the series much against Texas.
Oh.
Um, and now they have a 2-0 lead over the Astros. They're throwing Max Scherzer is coming back tonight to play against Houston. What's more surprising, like the dominance of Texas, their pitching and bullpen has been crazy, or just the lack of fight that their first two teams have put up? Astros have put up more of a fight now, but what surprises you more?
I don't even know if you can say the Astros have put up more of a fight, other than Jordan Alvarez single handedly carrying that team to
Yesterday, yeah,
close losses. I don't even know if you could say the Astros are competitive. I mean, out of the three, probably the most competitive if you want to go semantics. But
yeah,
I mean, the, the run that they've gone on, the Tampa Bay best start in baseball, obviously down the stretch faded away with Wander Franco touching little children. Um, the Orioles, best team in the league, some would say, outside of the Braves, who also got demolished, and now the Astros, who have made the ALCS what 7 times in a row, and they're just making them look like they've never been there before.
hmm
I just I don't know what's going on in Texas, what's in the water. On paper this should have been a really fun series, but like looking back on it now, they're going back to Arlington. It's in Arlington, right?
it is. The first two were in
Yeah,
Houston, yeah,
yeah. I can't remember if the stadium's in Arlington or
it is. It's right across from
yeah,
the Dallas Cowboys
yeah.
Stadium, which is in
But
Arlington.
now you're going back to Arlington with a 2-0 lead and 3 games in a row at home. You win two of them, you win the series. So
hmm
Jordan Montgomery looked amazing in game one. Who pitched yesterday? Oh, Eovaldi pitched yesterday.
hmm
Looked good. Um, you see Altuve's error that may have cost them a little bit. The base running
Yes,
error
the base running error. Yes, I'm like I
that
didn't see
was
a fielding error, but
that
yeah,
was
yeah, I saw the
bad.
base running.
So I mean, just like mistakes like that you wouldn't normally expect from a team that's been there so much. Um, Texas is hot. I
Yeah,
think that's the only explanation. They've beaten probably 3 of the top 5 teams in the league on their playoff run, and they haven't lost a game. So, no, they haven't. They didn't lose to the
they
Orioles,
haven't
did
lost a
they?
game,
No,
no.
they haven't lost a game. So I don't think that's gonna. I don't think that's gonna keep happening. Houston's bound to win one. I think they're probably gonna win tomorrow. They don't play tonight, do they? No, tomorrow. Um, but yeah, the Rangers have probably been the best team in the playoffs so far, maybe outside of Philly. I'd say they've probably been the best. They've been the best team. I
I would
think.
say the best. Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
the best. But I mean, again, like Texas's offense has been amazing and still scoring a lot of runs, but I don't think anybody predicted this bullpen. I know they got Chapman at the deadline, but all their pieces have been great. David Montgomery had a great, or Jordan Montgomery, excuse me, had a great start yesterday or 2 days ago for game one. So they've been able to answer and just 1 through 9 provide enough onsets to win. And it kind of goes to show, you know what? If you can put the big bucks up in baseball and have a consistent team, you can win. I mean,
Mm,
obviously the Yankees and Red Sox have
I
proved
don't.
otherwise,
Well, the Yankees, the Mets, the Padres. I don't know because at the same time, look at teams like the Rays, the Orioles, the Diamondbacks.
who have been
Um,
homegrown. Yeah,
Homegrown teams that don't really pay a lot. Now, obviously, the Orioles and Rays didn't win a playoff series. The Diamondbacks are
yeah,
still in the
but they still
playoffs,
won
but
100 games.
yeah, at the same time, like there's a balance because three of the top four, salary I don't know how to say it, but highest paid teams
Hmm.
they're not in the playoffs anymore. They either didn't make it or they're out. And then I mean you have
Yeah,
teams, the Rays, the Orioles, and the Diamondbacks who at least made it, and one team is still in it. So I don't know that argument of
I
pay
think
to
it's
win.
paying the right people. Does that make sense? Because like
Yeah,
the Phillies, Nick Castellanos, you had Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber. All of them didn't want to be like their original teams didn't want them. They all signed with the Phillies, right? Marcus Semien, you had blanking on the other person's name, the main shortstop that
Seager,
they have,
Corey Seager.
Corey Seager, exactly. Right? They didn't. Their original teams didn't want to sign them. They get big deals from the Rangers. So like, I think it's more so about paying the right people and valuing them when other teams don't.
Yeah,
You
and I
know?
mean like also signing your youth, like we see in Baltimore, what's going to happen with you have Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Jackson Holiday.
Hmm.
They're whole young youth. The Diamondbacks have already locked up Corbin Carroll to 8 years, like 80 million, which might come down as one of the biggest steals in like contract history.
Yeah.
Paying that man $10 million a year for the next 8 years is criminally he's underpaid. Um, but if that's how you're able to do it, it's working for him so far. So I feel like
Look at the
there's a
Braves.
balance. Yeah,
Yeah, the Braves did
absolutely.
off all their talent.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a certain extent to pay to win in buying players, but it also has to be a right fit for the system and getting them at the right number. Because we saw the Mets throw buku bucks at everyone. We saw the Padres with quite possibly the scariest lineup on paper. Not
Yeah.
did they even finish 500? They were under 500.
I think they did finish around 500.
Are they?
I think
But
they did. I
even
think they
that,
got to it.
even if they're around 500, like that is
Yeah,
disgusting on
82 and
paper.
80. Yeah,
Yeah.
82 and 80.
So I think there's a fine balance between paying and paying the right people.
Yeah. On the flip side of that series, of course, is Houston, the Astros. They did get kind of easier side up against the Twins. They won 3-1. They only lost the game that Pablo Lopez was amazing for the Minnesota. Are you like the rest of America and hope they get swept by Texas?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think everyone
I,
is.
yeah. Do I think they will? No, but do I hope they do? Yeah. I don't.
I don't want to see
Outside of
Altuve in another World Series. I
no,
don't.
but it does bring the question of what do you think of the layoff between the teams that get the bye? So Houston, the Orioles, Atlanta, and the Dodgers have 6 days off between the last day of the year and then their first playoff series.
Yeah.
None of those teams won a game. Oh, sorry, they
Yeah.
did. They did, but Houston
They're not
obviously
in
did.
the series. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the Orioles, they got swept. The Dodgers got swept, and the Braves only won one game.
I could see the reasoning for it, but also none of those teams really had a major injury that they were nursing. So it's next year, right? It could be the number one team in the National League. Major player needs the extra 5 days to get rested, so they're going to want it. So, and even the Braves said they had like a bunch of scrimmages. They invited fans to replicate the environment. So I think it's just more of circumstance, and I don't think it's like a consistent trend. Like I'm sure if you looked at last year's playoffs, the best teams won more with the layoff. You know what I mean? Obviously, the Phillies made it to the World Series, but I don't know. I would still keep it the same. It's what 2 years into the new wild card system. I don't think we need to overhaul it just
No,
yet.
no, I do see the argument of like if a team's coming into the playoffs, 7 game win streak, won 7 out of their last 10 or whatever, they're coming in hot and
Yeah.
then they have to sit for a week. I mean, I see how it could kill momentum, but still at the same time, you're probably the better team anyway. And they just came out of a grinding series, of a wild card series, more than likely, unless you were the Diamondbacks and just beat the shit out of the Brewers. Um, I just I don't know, especially when the wild card, if it goes long enough, you're going to dodge the first two games of their best two starters because you're assuming that they use them in the wild card series. So I guess there's two sides of the argument of the layoff, but I don't know, to use that as the excuse is kind of crazy because I know that was floating around. That was the reason the Dodgers lost is because they sat for too long, not the fact that Mookie and Freddie Freeman went a combined 1 for 22 in the series.
I know, like that's what I'm saying. I don't think the layoff is like super detrimental. I think
Yeah,
it just needs to be keep it, and then we'll worry about it next season. If it happens again, maybe, but we're too early to worry about changes.
yeah.
But we, of course, yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, who do you got? What's
Oh,
your
Rangers Phillies. I got the
Rangers
favorites right
Phillies?
now. Yeah,
Okay.
to root against a team that's up in the series is like so statistically, like improbable.
Yeah.
So I do like the Diamondbacks' chances of winning and then
I
sending
think
it back
yeah.
to the desert.
I think the D-backs have a better chance than the Astros at making it a competitive series, even though I don't think
Yeah,
either of them are going to win it. So yeah,
yeah.
you
I
taking
could see the
Philly?
D-backs Phillies going 6 or 5. I don't think the Astros.
I think the
I think the
Astros
Astros
go
win one
5.
game.
Yeah, the
I
Astros go
think they win
5.
one game at most.
I think the D-backs at most get it to 6. But are you taking Philly
Yeah.
over Texas in the World Series?
God, no, I can't. As a Marlins fan, I can't root for a division rival. I'm sorry. So I'm rooting for the Rangers.
I feel like it's going to be Philly. It's
I feel like it is too, but I don't want it to
I think it's going to be
be.
they're going to have home field. I don't know the
I
record
don't
off the
even
top of my
know.
head.
No,
I
it's
don't
by
know.
record, and the Rangers have the
Yeah,
better
it's
record.
record. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I don't know. I take Philly in 6 in a World Series.
we'll see. We of course have the NFL, the main sports besides college football in the fall. We have, of course, a lot of games to catch up, which we won't really get through all of them, just
Yeah,
through the main
we've
headlines.
missed like 3 weeks of football, so we are
Yeah,
bound to miss a lot of things today.
but we're going to catch up on just the main headlines. The first third of the season, a third of the season is done already.
That's
We are going into
crazy.
week 7, and there's 18 weeks in the regular season, so we're at the third waypoint. Best team in football, kind of still not super clear. It's not like where it was maybe in years past. There's a bunch of teams at 5-1,
All right, on the
but
count
one
of
of
three,
them,
on the count of three, say the best team in the NFL.
oh God.
One,
Okay.
two,
Two,
three. The
three,
Lions.
49ers. Let's say 49ers. I knew it. But we'll get to them in a minute. We'll get to the lines in a minute. But we start off with the hometown team with my jersey in the background, of course, that you supplied here. And that's the Miami Dolphins. The best offense in football, undoubtedly. Most rushing touchdowns, most passing touchdowns, most rushing yards in the NFL, most passing yards in the NFL. This team, Raheem Mostert has 11 touchdowns. Devon Achane is scoring seemingly at will. Of course, he's on IR for another 3 weeks. Tyreek Hill might break Calvin Johnson's receiving record. And
I
none
don't
of
even
that's
think.
even talk.
I don't even think it's a might. I think he absolutely is.
As long as he stays healthy, he will.
He's on
He just
pace for
needs
like
to.
2,500 yards.
He needs to average 102 yards a game, which is nothing for him.
No.
And that's all without talking about their defense, which is going to be better and has been okay. They're third in sacks in
Hopefully.
the NFL. Jalen Ramsey's coming back soon. And that's not even talking about Tua Tagovailoa, the likely MVP of the season, which I told you before the season started. He's my underrated MVP pick. And look at the odds then versus odds now.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's
What's
actually
stopping
stupid.
this team? What's stopping this team from winning it all? Tell me.
I mean, it has to be the schedule. If
Yep.
you look at it, they have not played anybody. I'm gonna pull up their schedule right now.
Oh, I
Obviously,
know it in here. You don't have
yeah,
to pull it
yeah.
up.
At the Chargers, they won by 2. It turns out the Chargers might not be very good.
Yeah.
Lost last
In New
week.
England.
Yeah, at New England, which is always tough, but they only won by 7 there, which is a game you'd think they would probably win by a little bit more. Oh, that was Sunday Night
What?
Football, right?
That was Sunday night in New England.
Sunday
Yeah.
night in Foxborough, like, fine. They won by you won the game. That's all. They played the Broncos, who could possibly be the worst team outside of the Carolina Panthers in the NFL, and dropped 70 on them, which in
Yeah.
the
They won by
NFL is
50.
still it's still hard to do to drop 70. But if there's any team that's going to give up 70, it's the fucking Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
And their only big test was at Buffalo, and they looked terrible. They
They lost
lost
by
that
four
game
touchdowns.
48-20. It was
Yeah.
never really close. Maybe the first quarter they were trading scores, and then Buffalo just went crazy. And then the next 2 games against the Giants and the Panthers, they blew out. So I think those teams outside of Buffalo have like a combined 6 wins. And their schedule does not get any easy. Well, I mean, it's not terrible, but their next 3 weeks is really, I think, going to
Litmus
make
test.
it. Yes. They go at Philly next week, I guess this week on Sunday Night Football. They host the Patriots, which, whatever. Maybe a trap game, but Mac Jones might be the worst quarterback of all time. And then you go to Germany in 2 weeks to play the Chiefs. If you come out of that stretch 2-1, you're probably feeling. If they win one of the Philly or Chiefs game, you're probably happy. And the rest of their schedule is pretty light, I would say, until it goes to the last 3 weeks. I feel like the only
Hmm.
thing stopping this team is the schedule. We haven't seen them actually play. We've seen them play a good team once and got demolished. So
Yeah.
maybe it's a write off. One bad game. They got caught sleeping in Buffalo, which is a tough place, notoriously bad. The Dolphins never play good in Buffalo, it seems. Um, maybe maybe it's just a bad game, but I think before I buy into them being the best team in the NFL, I need to see how they play against teams that have more than one win.
If they go 3-0 this next stretch, I'm looking at Super Bowl tickets.
Oh yeah,
Honestly,
if
if
they go 3-0, absolutely.
if they're 7-1 going into the bye, or 8-1, sorry, going into the bye, and their only loss is at Buffalo, I'm looking at Super Bowl tickets. I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah, especially since the next 5 games after that is hosting the Raiders, win,
Yep.
going to New York, who we saw they just beat Philly, but also at the same time Zach Wilson is the quarterback. I don't.
It'll be a tough game. It'll be a tough game.
Yeah. Then you go to Washington, who has been really hit or miss. Sam Howell had a rough start. He's actually been pretty serviceable the last few weeks, but Washington
Hmm.
doesn't really strike fear in anyone. You host Tennessee. I think that's a Monday
That should
night
be a
game.
win on Monday Night Football.
That's a win. I mean, Ryan Tannehill's actually Ryan Tannehill's not the quarterback. He is injured.
Malik
Um,
Willis.
Malik Willis or Will Levis, maybe that's still going to be a win. And then you host the Jets, and Zach Wilson's going to just be caught looking at too many Miami Milfs, and will not be able to play in that game.
No, he's
So,
gonna do better. He only does better when the Milfs are
oh
there.
shit, yeah, you're right. So again, and then the schedule the last 3 games is hosting the Cowboys at Baltimore and hosting the Bills. So I
Yeah,
mean
that last 3 games is tough.
they have a 3 game stretch now that's going to be tough, and a 3 game stretch to end the year that's going to be tough. So that's got to be the only thing holding them back because this offense might be like 85. What am I? The fuck did I just say? 80 might be
85. I
85.
don't know.
This might be like one of the best offenses of all time.
That's true. They're competing with the greatest show on turf and the Rams and the 2001 Rams. So I mean, I think, like you said, let's get through these next 3 games, then we'll reassess our Super Bowl ticket evaluations.
Yeah.
But a couple teams that aren't at all looking at the Super Bowls are just how bad some teams are. Like there's some teams that suck in the NFL. It's not the Dolphins, and it's not the Lions, which praise the Lord, we don't have to associate our teams
Oh
with
my
that.
god,
But
thank God. I've done that for too long.
we've got the Patriots, Broncos, Giants, and Bears all at 1-5. You have the Panthers at 0-6. This is a question on First Take yesterday, which I wanted to ask you about. Who has the worst future of all these teams? If you had to pick one of these 5 teams, I'm not including the Cardinals because even the Cardinals are 1-5. They at least play hard. They don't have their starting quarterback for the year. All of these guys have their starting quarterback, and they're just awful. So who's the worst?
Worst moving forward, I don't think you can say the Bears because they're going to have the Panthers first overall, their first round pick, and their own. There's a good chance that the Bears have the first 2 picks in the draft this year.
Yep.
You
Yep.
throw Marvin Harrison Jr. I think they should move
Caleb
on from Justin.
Williams.
I think they should move on from Justin Fields.
They
Um,
would.
yeah, if they get 1-2, I think they go Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think you could say the Bears are in their worst spot. I don't think you could say the Panthers are either. Yes, they don't have a first round pick, but they do have Bryce Young. Brian Burns is on the trade. What's the word?
Block.
Yeah, there you go, trade block. So you'll get something for him. I don't know. I don't think the Panthers are in the worst spot. You have your franchise quarterback. Um,
I agree.
he just doesn't have any weapons yet. So at least they have
Yeah,
that.
exactly. They at least just had the number
They
one pick.
have the piece. I think the team that's in the worst spot, it's not the Broncos. I don't think you still have Russell Wilson, which maybe
He's been good
he's
this year
not been
too.
bad. Yeah, he hasn't
Yeah,
been
he hasn't
bad
been terrible.
at all. It's the defense that needs help. Um, they can shore that up. The Giants, I think they're in a pretty rough spot. But again, you have Saquon on the team. They need a quarterback and wide receivers. I think the worst team is the Patriots. You do
Yeah.
not have an answer at quarterback. You don't have any answers on the offense. Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott are not they're not really serviceable at this point. At least Zeke's not. Ramondre might be a top 20, 25 running back, and who are their wide receivers? You don't have anybody on the Kendrick Bourne and what they got
Juju.
Juju. Yeah, that's not scaring anyone. The defense is fine. The defense always has been. It's kind of what New England has been, as a tough defense. I think they might be in the worst. I think if this year goes terribly and they win like 4 games, I think Belichick's gone, which is
I
just going to
think
further push them down.
I think that Stephen A. Smith actually made a good point. How he thought it was the Patriots too, because like Belichick is the GM, and they just need to take away his GM right because he doesn't know how to draft a team.
Yeah.
Who right now healthy is the best player on the Patriots?
Offense or defense?
Either. No, overall. Who's the best player that's healthy right now?
Ramondre Stevenson?
But that's terrible because it's a running back and he's not even a top 15 running back. Like,
Matthew
that's
Judon?
he's hurt.
Oh shit, yeah, he
He's
is.
hurt. That's what I'm saying. Like, they don't have talent. They need talent. They need to get picks. They need to figure out a way to get better talent on that team. Um, I do think the Giants are also in that position because they just gave Daniel Jones that mega contract. Saquon's on a 1 year franchise tag, so he's definitely trying to run away as quick as he
Yeah, he's
can,
gone.
if he can. But I think it's the Patriots. Kind of justified, bouncing the
Oh yeah,
world
they've
after their
been
big Super Bowl
so
runs.
good. Oh, actually,
So
oh, he's hurt too. I was gonna say Christian Gonzalez has definitely been their best player,
he's
but
hurt for the
He's
year.
out for the year.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So like the rest of this season, this is the team's gonna be fighting for Caleb Williams for sure.
yeah.
Which I'm hope they don't get because a Dolphins fan. I don't want them in
Oh
the
yeah,
division.
no, they need to go like
But
sixth.
I think it's definitely the Patriots. They're definitely. I think they're the worst team in football. The Panthers at least looked respectable for a quarter against the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm looking at the roster, and there's genuinely like nobody that like
The,
is Jabril Peppers their best play?
Stephen A. said, which is true, there are only two Pro Bowl players besides Brady in the last 10 years were the punter and a special teams Matthew Slater.
Yeah,
They haven't had a single Pro Bowler outside of that
that's tough.
because Gronk made it in 2013. So one team who is no longer the worst in football is the Detroit Football Lions.
Yeah,
Wanted to shout them out.
sure.
5-1. Honestly, just like the Dolphins, I wouldn't say they've had that tough of a schedule. They won against the Chiefs on the road, so that's a tough game. They lost to the Seahawks, who are the only team above 500 that they've played. Besides that, they beat the Packers.
At
Cool.
Lambeau.
They beat them
At Lambeau.
at Lambeau. That's true. Divisional games are always tough. But, I mean, you beat Atlanta last week. They're not really lighting up the world. But now they play Baltimore. Just like the Dolphins played a tough road game, Detroit goes to Baltimore, 1 o'clock start. If they can beat the Ravens, then you got me sold in January that this team can win a playoff game. Because I think for sure the Lions will get to the playoffs. It's not a question. They have the
Oh yeah,
biggest
no,
division lead of any team in football. But if they can beat a good team on the road, already to beat the Chiefs, I understand that. But if they can beat another one, that really solidifies their stance to me as a team that can win at least one home game in the playoffs, if not two.
and the good thing about it is the Ravens are coming back from London,
Yep.
so first half starts after that are usually pretty slow. And the Ravens, I think they have the fourth best rushing attack. The Lions have one of the best rush defenses in the league, and I think Baltimore's like maybe bottom 10 in the passing. So not really. There's no one on that team receiver wise that other than Mark Andrews, but I don't know. I feel like they absolutely have a chance to go into Baltimore and win, especially if Baltimore wasn't coming back from London. I would probably lean Baltimore. But
Yeah.
the fact that they could get caught sleeping just coming back from overseas, they've just been so good. Jared Goff is like a sleeper MVP pick. I think he's top 6 now. Aiden Hutchinson has been everything you could have
Great.
wished from
Great.
everything you could have wished from the second overall pick. He gets held on like
Mm.
every play. It's crazy. Um, Rumors that Max Crosby could be an option that they trade for. Danielle Hunter could be an option
That would be
that could
crazy.
be that could
Max
be the
Crosby would be insane.
Max Crosby, Aiden Hutchinson would be disgusting.
That would be
Um,
disgusting.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. They just got Jamison Williams back.
Long touchdown, I
Big
saw.
long touchdown. Amon-Ra, we already know. He's a staple on this podcast. He is him. And I mean, you still haven't really seen anything from Jameer Gibbs. You haven't seen anything from Jamison. He just got back.
Hmm.
And now David Montgomery may be out for a little bit. You start to see Jameer Gibbs and what he can do. I think this team could win like 12 games this year.
Yeah.
I
Right
think
now they're
they could
projected.
win the division by like 5 games.
Yeah, right now they're projected 11.7 wins and a 91% chance to win the division.
Yeah.
I mean, they've only played one game against the division against the Packers. They play the Vikings this week, right? No, the Niners play the Vikings.
Yeah.
Who does Detroit play? Oh, the Baltimore. We're talking about.
Baltimore. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They haven't played much in the division yet, so they can at least like wrap up the division if they go 4-1 in their next five divisional games.
Looking at the schedule too, like there's not games that I'm gonna read the schedule. Name you stop me when you think that they could lose that game. So Baltimore, they
Hmm.
could lose that game
Yeah,
at the Chargers.
they could.
They
They
could.
could.
They could.
They could.
Okay, I skipped it, but at Vegas on Monday Night Football,
Eh,
I,
I don't think so.
hosting the Bears,
Win.
hosting the Packers,
Win.
going to New Orleans, who has quarterback issues and an offensive issue,
They could still lose, but I'm still going to favor them.
at Chicago, win,
Win.
hosting the Broncos,
Win.
at the Vikings, who may not have Kirk Cousins or
Win.
Justin
No,
Jefferson.
no, no. Win. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's a win.
Going to the Cowboys.
Again, I would
They could
favor
lose
them,
that.
but that's tough. That's a tough game.
They could lose that. That's a coin flip game. And then hosting the
Yeah.
Vikings to end the year.
I see four losses, so that's
There's
still
four.
great, though.
Yeah.
That's
There's
still great.
four, maybe four losses.
And we said that before the season started about their schedule too. Like this is a team could go 11-6, 12-5, and it wouldn't shock us.
Yeah.
So now they're just filling up to that because they're not losing the games that like against the Falcons that you think would be a close game last year, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think Jared Goff MVP odds need to be closer to 2 at this point.
no, no,
Maybe
no,
not
no, no.
300, but he's plus 2,000. He needs to be like plus 1,000.
Yeah,
He's
that's fair.
been like one of the reasons that they have been so good. That defense is legit though. Finally,
Yeah.
thank God.
Speaking of legit defenses, the upset of the weekend. Browns hosting the San Francisco undefeated 49ers. You've got what was his name? Walker, the quarterback?
Was that even the upset of the week though? Because there was another one later in the day.
No, come on. The undefeated Niners going to Cleveland with a backup quarterback. You think the Niners are going to have this in the bag? Come
I
on.
mean, Philly going to Meadowlands against Zach Wilson.
But it's at least, I know, backup quarterback,
They
but.
also, they also, the Eagles cost me $250, so
Oh, okay. So that's why you're
hate
salty,
Philly. Yeah.
yeah. But still, I mean, backup quarterback, they allow the Browns defense allows the least yards in the game. They have allowed 600 passing yards through 5 weeks.
That's crazy.
Tua got that in 2 weeks. Like they've allowed only 15.4 points per game. This defense is really good. Now they obviously already have their bye week. They don't know if Watson's going to come back next week. But I mean, Amari Cooper had a great game. They've lost Nick Chubb. The defense is going to keep in a lot of games, especially with the NFC, AFC North being so close already, with all the teams kind of being similar. Just want to shout out the Browns because they had a really good week, and the fact that they won against San Francisco is a huge boost for them.
Yeah. I also is Brock Purdy really that good, or was he being
But you
held up
can't
by
blame him
Debo
for
and
missing the
CMC?
field goal. He at least got
Oh
his team
no,
a
that
chance to
was bad.
win.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah, Jake
bad.
Moody scuffed that.
Yeah,
But
couple
that's what I'm
plays
saying.
ago it
If
was.
if if he makes that kick, you're talking about how clutch Brock Purdy is for leading his team down on that drive to kick a field goal. So
Ah,
I don't I don't root against him just yet. Now Debo's hurt, CMC's hurt. They might miss a week or two, but
Now we're gonna see how good Brock Purdy really is, because if he can, who do they play this week? The Vikings.
they play the Vikings on Monday Night Football.
If they can beat the Vikings with, I'm assuming there's CMC listed as likely or hopeful to play. I don't know about Debo,
It's an oblique injury though, but I don't know.
so we'll see. If Brock Purdy can go and win that game with maybe some hurt pieces, then I'll start to believe a little bit more. But
Yeah.
I feel like we need to pump the brakes on the Brock Purdy hype.
Throw the ball to George Kittle for the love of God. He had one catch for 1 yard last
Yeah,
game.
that was
Throw him
bad.
the ball.
Yeah, that was. If you
We
draft
just
George Kittle in fantasy at this point, you kind of just like deserve it.
I mean, I didn't draft him. I traded for him. So,
Yeah.
but speaking of injuries, just talk about CMC. In the last 3 weeks, you've had a ton of injuries. I mean, Justin Jefferson is out for 4 to 6 weeks. Devon Achan is out for 4 weeks. Nick Chubb's out for the year. Obviously, Eckler was out before for 4 weeks. Is it the turf? Is it the grass? What? Explain the juju of injuries that's been happening.
I don't even know what's going on. It seems like every time you look, someone big name is going down. I mean, shit. My fantasy team alone, I've had like 8 injuries this season. It just seems like
Mm-hmm.
it's worse than it has been in the past. I don't know. I know there's been some bad weather games, like that Cleveland game. It was raining. Um, there has been more than I feel like normal bad weather games have been played so far. I
No.
just I don't know. Is it just an
Like
anomaly
Rogers,
with the
Cooper
condition?
Cup,
Yeah,
like there's been
yeah.
so many people. There's been so many players that have been hurt. J.K.
They need to
Dobbins.
they need to go to grass.
Yeah, they do.
I think that's
They
I think
do.
that's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these NFL teams that are hosting the World Cup games are being forced to use grass for the World Cup. So they're wondering if in 3 years they're going to just keep the grass or just go back to turf because they're cheap and they want to just do the
I think
turf
they need to go
option.
to grass. Like, what's the point of not going to grass at this point? Like
It's
money?
just money.
It's
It's
money.
money, man. Like, it's a you own an NFL sports franchise. Like you have money. Come on.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, oh, you can't penny pinch over this because you have the money.
Yeah, your team is worth $3 billion at least. Like chill.
You can pay
Um,
$100 million for a grass field. It's probably not even that much.
it's probably like 10 mil. Like come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. We will go real quick through the divisions and see just a team that you're happy and surprised about how they're doing, and a team that you're like, what the fuck? I had no idea this team was going to happen. Starting the AFC with the East, biggest surprise for me is honestly the New England Patriots sucking so much. I mean, 1-5 through 6 games. I couldn't see this happening, and I'm surprised in a bad way because they're minus 80 in point differential. They haven't won a home game. I mean, that to me is the biggest surprise in the division. And most disappointing, it's Buffalo. They're 4-2. They almost lost to the Giants on Sunday Night Football. If it wasn't for a PI call, which the second one should have been called on Darren Waller being held in the end zone. I mean, this team could be 3-3 and
Yeah.
rightfully so. So I would say it's two negatives because I mean we just talked about the Dolphins and saying the praises, but Buffalo and the Patriots been whack for me.
Yeah, I think the most surprising, I think it's Miami. Granted, they haven't played anyone, but like the way that the offenses look, I don't think anybody thought the offense was going to come out and score 37 points a game and be on pace for like one of the
Yeah,
best offenses of all time.
that is true.
Um, I think the most disappointing is the Jets, and it's not even really their own fault. It's just the hype that we had for this could be the best division in football with three teams that have
Rodgers,
a
yeah,
legitimate chance to win the division. And then Rodgers, what, two plays into his Jets career, tears his Achilles. So I mean, I'd say that the Jets have to be the most disappointing just based on where they were supposed to be to start the year, but it's not really their fault.
yeah, and it's a shame too because like you never want to wish. I know you hate Aaron Rodgers. Don't get me wrong, and you probably are like spitting in his grave when he dies. But like, I wouldn't want to wish injury on another player like that bad. Even Josh Allen, as much as I joke about him tearing his ACL because he is a piece of shit, but like that's just because he is not. He's on a team against the Dolphins. You know what I mean? Like the road back to recovery for these athletes is like crazy long. So it kind of puts a damp on the Jets season, but
But I
it
mean,
is
at the
what it
same
is.
point, they're what 3-3, and they just beat the Eagles. So I mean, I
They're
guess
doing
not all
okay.
not all hope is
Yeah,
lost. A wild
yeah.
card berth is still possible.
We've got the AFC North. My most surprising team in a positive way, I just talked about them, are the Browns. I mean, not that they've lit the world on fire, but they've only allowed, again, they've allowed 77 points through 5 games. Like, this is a really good defense. They have two losses in the division, unfortunately. They lost to the Bengals and they lost to Baltimore. No, they beat the Bengals. They lost to the Steelers in Baltimore. That game against Pittsburgh, they choked away. That game against the Steelers. But this defense is really good. I'm just surprised by with Nick Chubb's injury. I thought they would just immediately fall down to the bottom of the division, but no. My most disappointing team has, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals, which has been one of the most anemic offenses. They've scored 5 more points than the Browns, and it's the Browns versus the Bengals. Like you got Joe Burrow, you got Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase. You're going up against Jerome Ford, PJ Walker, and Amari Cooper. Like the Bengals should be flying high right now, but they only have an 8% chance on the division right now. So yeah, those are my two in the North.
I don't even. Is it fair to just say every one of these teams feels the same?
I mean, they're only a game apart, so yeah,
Every one of these teams just feels like I'm watching like one big coagulation of the entire division.
yeah,
It's not good. The Ravens are 4-2 leading the division, but even they've looked susceptible throughout the season. The Bengals looked absolutely terrible to start the year. The Browns don't have an offense. The Steelers actually every team on here doesn't have an offense.
yeah. I know.
Outside of maybe Cincinnati is probably the best one, but this is like a defensive slugfest in the division. I think the entire division's a disappointment. I don't think I have any surprises in here. I just think the entire AFC North has been disappointing to say the least.
Yeah.
There's been nothing good that's come out of that division yet, which is
And the
weird because
AFC,
it's also going to be the most competitive division.
I mean, it
I guess
is.
it
It
is. I
is.
guess, yeah.
There is, yeah.
But
Four through one separated by a game,
I
so
think we meant competitive because they would all be good, not competitive because they're all 500.
mid. They'd all be mid, yeah. Biggest surprise in the South for me is the Houston Texans. Like, competitive, scoring points. Their defense is still young, but I mean, they just went and, I'm so terrible. I already forgot who they beat. The Saints. They just beat the Saints last week. I mean, they're fourth in passing yards, ninth overall. CJ Stroud's been legit. I mean, they still got Derek Stingley out with a hamstring injury. But this team has been way better than I thought. We thought that the Bears were catching in a gold mine because they traded their first round pick to move up to get Will Anderson. But the Texans are 500 right now. They have a non-zero chance to make the playoffs. That to me is a surprise and a win. Most disappointing is going to be Tennessee. I mean, the Colts lost their quarterback for the year and have more optimism of the Colts the rest of the season than the Titans because Hopkins is good, Derrick Henry is good, Jeff Simmons is good. Outside of those three, the other 50 people on that roster suck. I'm sorry. Like it's watching paint dry at this point with their defense giving up 117 more than the Texans and scoring 104, which is like just barely better than the Bengals, who we just talked about being one of the worst offenses. So yeah, that's the South for me.
For the sake of being different, because I probably also would have said Houston, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I did say at the beginning of the year this Houston team could be like sneaky good, and that's
Hmm.
exactly what they have been. I'll say the Colts. I know they lost Anthony Richardson probably for the rest of the year, but even with Gardner Minshew, they've still looked relatively competent. And that, oh, I thought I was gonna sneeze and burp, but I mean, like they beat Tennessee. I mean, they lost to the Jags last week, but their two losses are to Jacksonville and to the Rams, who have also like kind of been sneaky good. Now, obviously, Anthony Richardson's out for the rest of the year, so they're not going to be very good at all. But I didn't think this team was going to win like 4 games, and they're already at 3. So they'll be the surprise. And then, yeah, obviously, the disappointment is definitely the Titans. Man, this might be Mike Vrabel's last chance because
Yeah.
if they don't turn it around, there's a couple of coaches that I think are going to be fired either in the season or after the season. I think Mike Vrabel's at the top of that list. If he's not able to get them into the playoffs and they finish 3 or 4 games under 500, that team is going to blow it up. Derrick Henry's going to be gone. D Hop might have just made the worst decision in football history. Obviously, we all know he was chasing the bag, but uh, buddy, you went to the wrong team.
And it's crazy. Like the Titans suck, but their schedule is still good because the AFC South
They
is
get
the
to
easy
play the
schedule
AFC
this
South.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Titans' next games are Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Jacksonville, Carolina. Like they could win two of those
They could
games.
win 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, and then they play Indy after they play the Dolphins next. But that's what I'm saying. Just the overall AFC South is a shit show, like we thought. And
Yeah, it's
then the
horrible.
AFC West, I mean, biggest surprise, I guess it's the Chiefs defense specifically, because the Chiefs defense has been really good. No surprise that their team is good, but just overall, Kansas City's been one of the best teams. Biggest disappointment, I'm going to give it to the Denver Broncos because they're 1-5, minus
Really?
71. They
Thinking the
obviously got
same exact things.
they got shot on by 50 by the Dolphins. So I mean, the Chargers have also been really disappointing. Don't get me wrong, but just Denver's been abysmal, one of the worst teams in football. I didn't think that'd be the case with Sean Payton there. So yeah, give me Broncos and Kansas. You're probably thinking the same.
Actually, I'm not. I think the Broncos are a good choice, but we saw how bad they were last year. Were they really gonna make that huge 10 game jump difference to be an elite team? They probably were not.
Hmm.
So for my surprising team, I don't think there is a surprising team in this division. Like Denver's been ridiculously bad. I mean, the Raiders are 3-3, but is that really cause for excitement? I don't think so. And then the Chargers are bad. So I mean, surprise. My surprise of the division so far is Kansas City losing on opening night to the Lions. That's my surprise. Um,
Yeah.
Disappointment. I think it's the Chargers. I think
Yeah.
Brandon Staley is another name that if he doesn't turn the ship around, he's going to be gone because he has made some monumental mistakes with this team. It
Hmm.
seems like they grasp losses from the clutches of wins, and they just do everything that they should not be doing to win games. They're bad. They have a good team too. Justin Herbert, top 10 quarterback in the league. They have Austin Eckler, top 5 running back. Their defense is led by Joey Bosa. He's good. Derwin James is good. Keenan Allen's
Khalil
good.
Mack's been great.
Khalil Mack has been amazing. They have the team, and they just can't win games. So, what are they 2-4 right now?
Two and
If
four.
if they don't even make the playoffs, I think Staley's gone. They've been a
Yeah.
disappointment. They were the team that people thought was going to take the next step, compete in the division with Kansas City, and maybe win like a playoff game. But at this point, they might not win 6 games.
And they go to Kansas City. That's the next game they
Yeah,
got.
that's a loss.
Take us through the NFC per division. Take us through.
Let's see. We'll start with the NFC East. I guess my surprise team is Washington. I I guess
Yeah.
there hasn't really been like a surprise team here. Yeah, it's got to be Washington. Sam Howell had a rough start to the season. They're 3-3. That's
Yeah.
probably better than a lot of people thought that they would start. So I'll say Washington is obviously the surprise. The disappointment is obvious. It's the Philadelphia Eagles for not being undefeated and losing to the Jets. It costed me $250. That was very disappointing. But the actual answer is the New York Giants. They have absolutely nothing going. I think Brian Dable is also on the list of probably being fired after the season if he doesn't figure it out because this team, they're already, what, 4 games back of the division at this point.
Yeah.
How many games have they won? One?
One.
Yeah,
One
they've
game.
got
They
one
only
more
beat
game.
Arizona when that
Yeah.
comeback in
And
Arizona.
they shouldn't even have won that game either. So there's no talent on this team. They have no wide receivers. They don't have a quarterback. Daniel Jones is not your answer. Saquon is going to be ditching as soon as he can. Um, it's weird. Like, you brought in Darren Waller, and he doesn't really seem to be involved too much in the game. I don't know. They've been really bad. I knew they weren't good, but I didn't think they were this bad.
Yeah. Surprise to me is Dallas, like 4-2. I know it doesn't scream anything super surprising about this team, but I mean, actually, I take that back. They've only beaten terrible teams. They beat the Chargers,
Exactly.
Patriots, Jets, and Giants. So my biggest surprise is, like you said, Detroit or Philly losing last week against the Jets. That's my biggest surprise that the Eagles lost that game. And then disappointment, it's got to be the Giants. They suck. I'm sorry. The Giants, negative 96 point differential through 6 games is atrocious. They already have a 0% chance to win the division off of projections.
That's
Um,
that's so bad.
0%. Not even joking. It's
That's
0%.
awful.
They have a 1% chance to make the playoffs. It's week 6. So, yeah, the Giants suck ass. Daniel Jones, go back to Duke and finish your degree, bud. Football's not in it for you. Yeah, take us to the North.
Let's see. So the North, obviously, you know where I'm going with this one. The surprise
Mm-hmm.
is the Detroit Lions. I don't think. I mean, I thought that they would be good. I don't think anyone thought they'd be 5-1 good. Um, if they were leading the division at this point, I would have been happy at like maybe 4-2. But they've looked outside of a coin flip in overtime. This team could be undefeated. Um, that Seahawks game was bullshit. So I think the surprise has to be the Lions, the top 5 team in the league. They've got the 5th or 6th best odds to win the Super Bowl, which I've never said that in my life. So
Yeah.
that's got to be the surprise. And the disappointment, it's the Vikings. It's got to be the Vikings. The Bears we knew were going to be bad. We knew Green Bay was going to take a step back with no Aaron Rodgers. The Vikings, 1 win. They're bad. They've now lost Justin Jefferson, maybe for the rest of the season, but at least for the next 4 to 6 weeks, depending on if they want to shut him down, because they're already 4 games. No, they've won 2 games. But they're already 3 games out of the division. They could very easily trade Kirk Cousins, shut down Justin Jefferson. Um, After a year where they scraped by with one possession wins or one score wins, they've come back down to earth, crashing.
That's why I'm actually not picking them to be my disappointing team because you knew the Vikings one possession record was going to get worse, right? All their games they've lost by one possession. I mean, they played close against the Chiefs, the Niners, or not the Niners, the Chiefs and the Chargers, the Eagles, Tampa. They played all these games close. They just haven't sealed the deal. But we knew that was going to happen. So it's not really a surprise to me. The surprise is how bad freaking Chicago is. Like, you'd think they got rid of the number 1 overall pick. You should get a bountiful of picks. DJ Moore, great pickup. He's not worth the number 1 overall pick. So for you to miss on so much talent that the number one pick has, I mean, I know it's been like literally 6 weeks since they started the draft, but this team is awful. They don't have their future at quarterback in Justin Fields. At least I don't think Chicago can build around a quarterback that's taken in the top 10 because look what they did with Justin Fields. Nathan Peterman is terrible. Mitch Trubisky, terrible, but they also did nothing to help those quarterbacks as well. It's just the defense that's been carrying them. So I can't really blame the Bears. Surprise is Detroit. They've been amazing. No surprise there. But the Green Bay Packers to me are the biggest disappointment because Aaron Jones has been out and Jordan Love has been mid without him. So Jordan Love needs to come back for these Packers to have a shot in the playoffs or to make even a playoff
They're
game.
not even going to be close.
They got a 30% shot to make the postseason. So
They
it's not out of it
should.
yet.
It should be a 3% chance.
It's 5% to win the division still for the Green Bay Packers.
Is that the highest out of all of them? I'm assuming because like Vikings have
Yeah,
that like a 1%.
Minnesota's 3.5. Bears is zero. The Bears is zero. The best division to talk about is the NFC South.
Oh god, I
Go
don't even
ahead.
want to talk about it. I guess my surprise team is Tampa. I don't know. This is like another mid division where there's no one's really stepped out and like surprised. I guess Tampa being what are they 4-2,
Three
three
and
and
two.
two.
3-2.
I guess like they could probably be the best. We didn't think they would be that good. We didn't know who was going to start at quarterback. Baker has had like a pretty solid year. He hasn't
Yeah,
been like
Baker's been the surprise.
yeah he had. There you go. Baker is the surprise in this division.
Yeah.
Um, I guess disappointment is. I don't know if you can call Carolina a disappointment because we knew they were going to be bad. Bryce Young has looked better in the last couple of weeks. I don't know. Is it Atlanta? I think it's got Atlanta's offense might be the most disappointing thing in this division. They have Bijan Robinson, who looked great the first few weeks, but seems to have fallen out of not fallen out of favor, but he hasn't looked the same. Kyle Pitts finally has scored a touchdown.
On American soil.
He did it on American soil. Um, Desmond Ritter might be a bottom five quarterback in the league. He's terrible. Um, so I guess Atlanta's offense is the biggest disappointment because we thought, adding Bijan was going to add a different layer to this offense, and we just have not seen it at all.
I'm going to say biggest surprise is Baker. Biggest disappointment is the Carolina defense.
Oh yeah, they're
You
bad.
know they've allowed more points than the Bears. They've allowed more points than the Giants. The only team that's allowed more points than the Panthers is the Broncos, and then the Broncos gave up 70. That's the only team to give up more points in the NFL. So I gotta say it's the Panthers' defense for me.
They're pretty bad. And then finally, the NFC West, the most surprising team. I'll, I'll say Arizona.
Yeah, which is crazy because they're one and
Yeah, they're
five.
1-5, but like they've played hard.
Yeah.
They should have beat the Giants. They sh-
Yes.
they beat Dallas. I'm trying to think of who else they've had. They just got blown out this week.
They played close against Cincinnati. They
They've
played
played
close against
close.
Washington.
Yeah, they lost to Washington by 4. They lost to the Giants by 3. They beat the Cowboys by 12. Got blown out by the Niners. The last couple of weeks have been rough. They've lost 3 in a row, all by like 2 touchdowns or more. But I don't know. I thought this was a team that was going to be losing by 20 points every week, and for the first at least half of the season, they've been like somewhat competent, and they haven't looked terrible. And then the biggest disappointment, I don't, I don't think there's really a disappointing team. The Rams have, I think, over exceeded expectations. The Niners have only lost one game, and Seattle, I think, is still a sneaky wild card team at 4-2, so or 3-2. I don't, I don't
I know
know.
this. I know the biggest disappointment for you. It's your wallet because James Conner is out for 4 weeks and he's not going to be
Yeah,
a
you're
top
right.
five running back in the NFL
He was
fantasy.
doing so good too. He was actually like on pace to be close to it, and now he's out for 4 weeks, which
No,
I
we
think.
said if he got hurt, we said if he got
Yeah,
hurt, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's
yeah.
fine.
I was pretty sure I made a clause that if he missed
You
like
did for injury.
multiple
Yeah, you did for injury.
games,
You did. I know. I just wanted to tease you about it.
it would have been a good ass prediction too.
I know. For me, biggest surprise is Joshua Dobbs not being ass. He's been better than Daniel Jones this season. I'm sorry. He's been better than Justin Fields. And Justin Fields had 2 great games, but like to be a stand-in for Kyler Murray and the fact that he got traded to the team a week before the season started hasn't been that bad. Disappointment for me. I don't even know. Like you said, there's not really a big disappointing team all of these teams have a positive point differential besides obviously Arizona. So none of these teams have been disappointing. How about the fact that the Niners lost to the Browns? That's a disappointment for me.
That's disappointing. My disappointment is that the Seahawks beat the Lions in overtime.
There you go.
Now,
We'll stick in the Northwest unless you have anything else you want to add for NFL.
no,
We'll
we've
get to their
probably
predictions.
yeah, we've been gone for a month, so we definitely missed stuff. But going forward, we'll be back to our regularly weekly updates on scores and all of that. So we definitely missed stuff in the NFL. Definitely missed stuff in the MLB. But moving forward, we should be good to go.
I want to shout out my Heisman candidate bag, Michael Penix. Washington Huskies. I said he was going to win the Heisman this year, and he's looking like he will, considering what we talked. We're going to talk about the USC game in a second, but would you rank this as a top five game in college so far? Washington, Oregon. I don't know if you saw it at
Oh,
all.
that was like top three.
36-34 back and forth. The Oregon missed field goal, chance for Washington to go down and kick the game winning kick.
Yeah.
Like, it
I
was
don't
a
know
great
what
game.
I don't know what game you could say was better. Like Ohio State Notre Dame, probably
Yeah,
not.
probably that ending was pretty good.
I don't
Yeah.
even think that one was better. I think this might be the best game that's been played so far.
And I'm glad they didn't like derail Oregon. Oregon's just 10 in the rankings
Oh
or
yeah,
9
Oregon absolutely still has a chance to make the playoff.
because they're a good team. Washington was just slightly better that day. Washington's 5 where they belong. Dude, Michael Penix, I'm telling you, he's going to win the
Yeah,
Heisman.
he might.
He's looked really good. He hasn't had a bad game yet. Just saying. They play Arizona State, so watch out. But
Hey man, that's just
Washington did great. Is co-Heisman favorite, especially for you. I know you voted for Caleb Williams to win the Heisman. Dude, UFC face planted in South Bend. I don't know what
yeah.
happened. Dude, 48-20. It was like watching the Bills against the Dolphins. I don't know what happened. Like USC just didn't show that they were worth the big amount of hype. I mean, they almost choked the game to Colorado, also at home, but now they go to Notre Dame and absolutely get wrecked. Like, can USC still make the playoff with a one out of conference loss? Do you think?
Oh yeah, for if they run the table, they're still absolutely making the playoffs. Let me pull up their
Hmm.
schedule real quick to see who they still have to play.
They play Utah. I don't think they no, they play Washington, I believe.
I'm pulling it up. Let me see. Because if they still play three or four ranked teams, if they win out, they're absolutely still in it.
They've got Utah, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA.
Yeah, if they win out, they're absolutely a top four team and making the playoff. There's no doubt about it.
Hmm.
Every team you can lose a game and make the playoffs. I mean, shit, we almost saw a two-loss team multiple times make the playoff. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like if USC runs the table, they absolutely could. But do I think they run the table after watching Caleb Williams play a team with a pulse? I don't know.
Yeah.
They looked really overmatched against, I guess, a superior Notre Dame team. So I'm interested to see what happens when they play Washington, who I think Washington might be extremely better than Notre Dame. Um, I don't know. Maybe it was a down week for USC and they come out and beat the shit out of everybody else, but it doesn't inspire a lot of hope from what you saw.
Man, I told you, man. I told you, Washington. I know they play at USC, but that doesn't scare me as a like I'm a Washington fan, but it doesn't scare me as a hopeful Husky fan. Speaking of hope being deprived, I know you have this game and you want to talk about all about it. And this Colorado Buffaloes on Friday night blowing a 29 to nothing lead against the 1-4 Stanford Cardinal in double overtime. Tell me through about this game. You've been right. You said Colorado would suck, wouldn't get the 6 wins. It's looking more and more likely. The floor is yours.
Colorado is not a good football team, and that's okay. They weren't supposed to be good this year. They need to build the program back up. The people that were saying that this is a like bowl, this is like an 8-win team, they're gonna like win a bowl game. Delusional. This team was never going. If they win 6 games, it's a miracle. The rest of their schedule, let me pull that up because
It's
boy
UCLA,
howdy,
Oregon State, Arizona, Washington State, and Utah. Those are their 5 opponents.
they might not win another game.
They might win one. I think they beat Arizona at home,
But do you see
but
what
that's it.
Arizona just did to Wazoo? They just beat the shit
I
out of
did.
Washington State.
I know they did.
So I don't even know if this team wins another. Even if they win five, they're not making a bowl game. And I said it, this team is not winning more than 4 or 5 games this season. Their schedule was extremely easy to start the season, which is what everyone bought into. Was this team started
Yep.
3-0? They beat TCU, who was in the national championship last year, but I told you TCU was not going to be very good this year. They lost every important piece that they had. They're not good. They went to triple overtime against Colorado State, went to overtime against Stanford after blowing a 30-point lead. They're not good. I'm sorry. They'll be good in a couple of years, but the people that were high on them are now like, oh shit, wait, they actually were not very good, and we just bought into the early season hype because I got a blessed schedule.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I
Um,
agree. I mean, Colorado's defense is just like Shooter Sanders is good. Like Prime's kid is actually a good quarterback. I'm not doubting that. Or Travis Hunter had like 140 yards receiving, but their defense needs to reconsider football because
it's
they
bad.
it's really bad. I mean, USC, yeah, they you'd expect them to score a bunch of points, same with Oregon. But for 1-4 Stanford to come back down 29-0, you let your foot off the gas and you, their receiver, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. He had 13 catches for 239 yards and 3 touchdowns in the second half. Like their corners, I know Travis Hunter wasn't even playing corner that much because he was just focusing on offense last game, but Colorado, like you said, is a bad football team.
Bad.
You want to know who else is a bad football team?
The Miami
The
Hurricanes.
Hurricanes of Miami. It happened 2 weeks ago, but I still got to bring it up. The worst ending sequence to end the game. You have 38 seconds left. You have the ball. You're up four. It's third down. If you literally do anything but turn over the ball, you win. You win. Even if you punt, even if you do a field goal, you win. But no, Mario Cristobal, for the second time in his coaching career, decides to run the ball. Cheney fumbles. Georgia Tech gets a huge DPI penalty. Gets 2 bombs to win the game with 1 second left. Insane. And Miami deserved to lose last week to North Carolina. They weren't the best team, but this is going to be a coaching blunder that goes with Mario Cristobal for the rest of his time in Miami. Like until he wins the ACC, this is just going to be like, oh, you're a good coach. Well, what happened there? And it happened before. When he was in Oregon, they played against Oregon State, and the exact same thing happened, except they blocked the field goal to preserve the win. The exact same thing happened, though. So I don't know what kind of Madden mismanagement this was, but Miami had a 99.99999% chance to win this game on ESPN's thing before the fumble happened. So just had a vet because that was very. I went to bed thinking they won, and
Yeah,
I woke up and
I'm
they
I'm
lost.
sure a lot of people who gambled on that game woke up not very happy. But that is that a
Yeah.
fireable offense for Mario Cristobal if this team doesn't end the season good?
If they don't win 8 games this year, it's questionable. If they win 8 games, I think he's still okay.
Did he say anything after the game of why he did
He
that?
said it was his fault, which is damn right he better.
Well,
He said it
yeah,
was
it
his
is.
fault.
But why?
It is his
Why like
fault.
why
Because
did he
you
do
know, like
it?
you see the center who was crying on the sideline. He's like, "What the fuck just happened?" Like I'm sure
Yeah.
all the players are just doing what they're told because they're kids. Like if I'm Tyler Van Dyke, I'm just saying "fuck you" and I'm just
Yeah.
dolphin diving with the ball
Did they
next
have
time.
did they have like a timeout or anything? Like why didn't no one call a timeout to be like, what the fuck? Why are we running a play?
No, because they knew what was happening. Even if Miami didn't have any timeouts, right, which they didn't, it doesn't matter. You take the delay of game. It doesn't
Yeah.
affect the score.
Yeah, so I don't I don't blame the players, but like at the same time, like why were they not like what the fuck? Why are we running a play? Just take a knee. But
If I'm Tyler Van Dyke, I'm sorry. I'm taking the ball and I'm just like dolphin diving because they're in a shotgun. I'm just taking a knee to the side.
you don't even have to
So
jump. You just take the ball and go down. like
that's what I'm saying. Just
yeah,
like just go down.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like that should be a fireable offense, especially since they had like hopes of winning the ACC. That
Oh,
aspect, that's
dashed
gone. You're done now.
immediately, and they still got to go to FSU.
Yeah, they're done. Tough.
We had a big injury in the college world. Number one tight end. Do you think Brock Bowers is a top 10 pick in the NFL draft upcoming?
I don't know. I feel like I should say no. I
Okay,
feel
no,
like
because I'm genuinely curious. Because do you think a tight end deserves to go top 10 in the NFL draft?
I mean I cannot answer that
Because we
question
saw
because
Kyle Pitts.
I have been hurt multiple times by Eric Ebron and T.J.
Yep.
Hawkinson drafted in the
Yep.
top 10.
I mean, Hawk is
So
good. He just got traded.
I feel like you shouldn't draft a tight end in the top 10, but at the same time, Brock Bowers might be. I don't think he's a better prospect than Kyle Pitts, though. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I think he goes 20. I think he goes about
If
20.
he's a first round pick for sure. I just don't know top 10. He's definitely the
Well,
best player in college football this year.
yeah. I mean, Michael Penix might have a word. But, I mean, he's undergoing ankle surgery. The all the medical doctors that totally are legit on Twitter say that he's likely just going to sit out the rest of the season, prepare for the draft, because he'd return in mid-December anyways. So I don't know if this really affects Georgia. Like, I don't know if you feel this way in college football, but there hasn't been like an electric, oh my goodness, this is the clear number one team in football. Like, Michigan's good, don't get me wrong, and Georgia's good, but it's not like one of these teams match up and you automatically know who's going to win in the past. I feel like it's very more diverse in like the better teams in football, in college football.
Oh, I think this absolutely hurts Georgia because without Brock Bowers, they don't beat Auburn.
Yeah.
Without Brock Bowers, they probably don't win most of their games at this point. They've already been pretty lackluster, I would say. They didn't look good in the first half against Vanderbilt. That was a close game for some reason. South Carolina was a close game. Auburn was a close game, and all of this was with the best non-quarterback player in the league or in the country. Now you lost him. Their running backs have been kind of an issue all season. That they're not the best. There's no, number one bell cow lead back that you're like, oh, just like Bama has. Georgia has, Nick Chubb, Todd Gurley,
DeAndre Swift.
no Sean Moreno, DeAndre Swift. There's no one on that team this year like that. I
Yeah.
I don't think they're the number one team in the country. If Brock Bowers is out for the rest of the season, I don't even know if they make the college football playoff.
But I mean, what do they
Actually,
lose
no,
to?
that's a lie because their schedule is so fucking easy. I don't know
About
who
to
they're
say,
going
do
to
they
this
lose
year.
to Florida next week? Do they lose to Tennessee on the
That
road?
that
Maybe.
yeah, those would be like the two games because the Florida game is always interesting, the biggest cocktail party. Um,
They play Ole Miss and Mizzou, but they're both at home.
Without Brock Bowers, I mean, you lose one of those games and then you maybe lose to Bama in the conference championship, and
SEC title, yeah.
you're probably not making the playoffs. So I think Brock Bowers is a huge part to this offense. So who do they got Florida this week? So
Next week they have a bye.
they have bye this week. So next week we'll
Yeah,
see. I don't even know if Florida's really going to give them too big of a test. They've been pretty fucking bad this year.
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, do they?
So that Tennessee game is probably their biggest chance at losing. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like this is definitely going to hurt their chances. They're not going to be the unquestioned number one that they have been the last 3 years.
Yeah. Okay. Why is it crazy that LSU can still win the SEC?
Yeah, they only have one SEC loss.
Yeah, and they play Bama still. I just realized that. And Ole Miss is 13 in the country, by the way.
Yep, we're gonna beat
That's
the shit
incredible.
out of them this
I just
weekend.
realizing all the like 10 through 20 SEC teams. There's like five of them.
Lane Kiffin's about to get sunned by Hugh Freeze this weekend.
We'll see. We of course can predict those games now, starting with the college games if you want.
I forgot we
Um,
had this bet going on.
yep, for the jersey.
Have we added up
So
the?
I did. From the NFL and college, you had two games better than I did. So you're sitting at 25 and 13. I'm at 23 and 15. So because I got the Packers game right, I got the Patriots game wrong. But again, this was 3 weeks ago, so
Hey,
the game's already been
20,
yeah.
25 and 13. I'm making money on that.
That's good. That's a good predictions. It is. But I mean, the NFL, there's six teams on a bye, so we'll get to them in a minute. But we've got five elite games for college. The biggest one, in my opinion, is the 12 o'clock.
Motherfucker, you put this one on elite. We'll
Bro.
get to it. We'll get to it, and I'll let you know when we get to it. But this is not an elite game of the week, my guy. I don't think you watched how bad this team was last week.
Oh, I know. I just had to put it
Why
on to
the
get that
fuck is this
reaction.
game on then?
He's, of course, talking about Ole Miss at Auburn, which we'll start with that one.
Game of the
Any
fucking
chance
week.
Auburn wins this game?
No, we don't have a quarterback. Peyton Thorne is not good. Robbie Ashford's
Yep.
not a quarterback. The defense got absolutely exposed by LSU last week. And granted, LSU might be one of the best offenses in the league, but Auburn has always been a good defensive team. We're losing this game by 21. The fact that Ole Miss is -6 is wild to me because Auburn is going to lose this game by 3 touchdowns.
You betting this game? You
I'm,
betting
I'm betting. I'm
money
hammering.
line Ole Miss?
I am hammering Ole Miss minus like 14 as an alternate line.
Yep.
It's not even gonna be
Besides
close.
that actual joke of the games, there are actually four other good games on this list. The big one, 12 o'clock, Penn State undefeated, traveling to the Buckeyes of Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State almost lost to Notre Dame, who just beat USC. So do that if you can. Penn State hasn't really played anybody super great. You think the New Lions can pull off the upset?
I don't know. Penn State's kind of been like a quiet top 10 team. Like you said, they haven't played
They
anyone.
have.
Drew Allard's this is going to be his first test against a real team.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a weird game because it's Kyle McCord versus Drew Aller. Like normally these matchups you have, we had Sean Clifford at Penn State. You've had Justin Fields at Ohio State. Now it's kind of just like unknown dudes throwing the ball.
But they've won every game
They have,
handedly. I mean, the closest they did was 17 against Illinois.
yeah. I mean, I'll take. Let me see what the odds are. I'll probably take Ohio State just because they're at home. But this is a genuine toss-up game that I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be a low-scoring defensive slugfest. Ohio State's -4. I'll probably take Ohio State to win in like a 28-24 type game.
Yeah.
Probably what it's favored to be at.
I'm taking Penn State. I'm taking Penn State to pull off the upset. I didn't pick Ohio State either when they played Notre Dame, and I'll go over 2 if they can, but I don't know. Like you said, very quiet, under the radar team. I mean, they smoked Iowa 31 to nothing, and Iowa's actually a top 25 team. Ohio State has played Notre Dame, and again, nobody else. I'm going to take Penn State. I think Penn State gets it done on the road. 12 o'clock start. If it was a night game in the horseshoe,
Yeah.
I'm going to take Ohio State. But since it's 12 o'clock start, we saw what happened when they played Michigan last year at 12
Yeah.
o'clock. I'm going to take Penn State. I'm going to take Penn State.
I'll stick with Ohio State, but I mean Penn State has the better defense. Ohio State has had some slow starts and
Yeah,
slow
Maryland
finishes. The
game.
Maryland game was bad.
Indiana was slow.
Indiana was
Youngstown
slow.
State was slow.
Yeah, so I don't know. At the shoe, morning
Yeah.
kickoff. Is game day? I'm assuming game day's there.
Game day is there. Game day is
So
there.
it'll be up and rowdy in the morning. I'll take Ohio State by like a field goal. I just don't. I think Penn State might be a little overrated too.
Yeah. We'll see. We're gonna find out on Saturday. We've got Tennessee going to Bama. Does Bama officially get kicked out of the college football playoff this week?
No,
You're
unfortunately
taking the
not.
Tide.
I will take the Tide. They looked.
Man, you're taking not Auburn. You're taking Bama and Ohio State. Who are you?
There's a method to my madness, Alex. There's a
Because you,
method.
you root for them, but if you lose, then you're still happy.
There's a method here. Yep. I either win the bet or my teams win and my enemies do bad. They looked pretty bad against Arkansas last week. They looked pretty bad against A&M. They haven't like impressed at all. Their only win that is, I mean, they beat Middle Tennessee. Who gives a shit? They beat Mississippi State by 23. Every other game, 17-3 against South Alabama, 24-10 against Ole Miss, 26-20 against A&M, 24-21. Not a great offensive team. I even said it. Jalen Milroe not that very good.
Yep.
But it's Nick Saban against Tennessee, who I think also might be a little overrated this season. They lost all of their talent from last year. They also barely beat A&M. They lost to Florida, who Florida's not very good either. I think it's another. This is probably actually I think it'll be a high scoring game. For one reason, I don't know. I'm just getting that feeling of like 48-40 for some
Yeah.
reason. But I'll take Bama. Bama's 10-point favorites too, which I think also could be a little high. 10 is a lot. The over under is 49. I think it goes over that, and I think Tennessee probably covers. I think it's gonna be a really high scoring game.
I think Tennessee barely won last year's game in Tennessee with a much better roster. I think Bama's been playing better recently also. I'm going to take Bama. I don't think it's even close. I think actually 10 is going to be exactly what they win by. I think it's going to be a 10-point game. Like, I'm seeing like 34-24 in my head. Bama winning. Got Duke traveling to Tallahassee. Actually, good game. I mean, both teams are undefeated.
Yeah, this
Oh,
might
sorry, Duke
decide.
lost to Notre Dame.
Duke lost to
But
Notre Dame, but undefeated in the ACC.
yeah, does Duke have a chance to pull the upset? I'm going to say no. As a big of an FSU hater as I am, I think FSU wins this game by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, Riley Leonard's been good. Mike Elko probably will get a job outside of Duke next year. He's been one of the best coaches. But Jordan Travis, too good. That Florida State team, just Keon Coleman, uh, insanely good. That guy's
Yeah.
ridiculous. I don't know why Michigan State let him leave.
I don't think he said let. He just
But
transferred.
Michigan State kind of blew that one.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to decide whoever wins this game is going to have the front spot in the ACC. I just don't see Florida State losing at home to Duke. It's just
Yeah, I don't either.
Duke's been a great story the last couple of years. Like I said, Mike Elko absolutely deserves a better job somewhere in the Power Five than Duke. But I don't think they upset Florida State this week. Florida State's kind of been looking ahead towards this Clemson game. They beat the shit out of Clemson. No, they didn't. That was overtime.
No, they didn't. They barely won.
Syracuse.
They barely won.
It was Syracuse last. I knew it was an orange team. They beat the shit
Yeah.
out last week. Syracuse, not
That's
Clemson. But they beat the fuck out of Syracuse last week. Syracuse was
Yeah.
like a sneaky.
They were good. They went 4-0 to start the season.
Yeah, they beat the shit out of them. So,
Yeah.
I just looking at Florida State's schedule too. Like then they go to Wake Forest, they go to Pitt, they host Miami, and then they go to Florida. This team could absolutely end up
Going undefeated.
They could be undefeated.
Yeah, I could see it. Like I said, I'm taking FSU.
Oh yeah, it's FSU minus 14.
Yeah, for a primetime game, that's the 8 o'clock ABC game.
Yeah, I honestly I think this is like a 20-point win too.
USC is going back home with their tails between their legs after that loss to Notre Dame. They're playing Utah, who's been playing pretty well after that loss to Oregon State. Do the Utes get it done and make it 0-2 for USC in back-to-back games?
I feel like USC is going to come out firing. I feel like they feel disrespected by that game in Notre Dame, embarrassed because it was an embarrassing performance. Now you're at home against a Utah team whose defense is great. No Cam Rising. He's not back yet, is he?
Don't think so.
Yeah, still no Cam Rising. I don't know. It's just There's no way USC loses back-to-back weeks. There's no way. There's no way it happens.
Yeah, Cam Rising has not played yet.
I didn't think
He's
so.
not played. Man, this is tough for me. Utah beat USC last year and then beat USC again in the conference title game. And they've won 3 straight over USC. But I think it's still going to be USC at home. As much as I'd like you said, they're going to come out with a fire that if they lose this game, their season, all their expectations are essentially a wash. I'm taking USC.
Yeah,
we go on to the NFL.
There's just no way they're losing back-to-back games. I don't believe it.
Yeah. We'll swiftly go on to the NFL to wrap up the episode. Only 4 games because, again, 6 teams on bye. Jags at Saints. That's how you know it's bad. When we're highlighting the Thursday night game, that's how you know the schedule's not great this week. Thursday night, Saints hosting the Jags. Do the Saints, I mean, it's a tough place to play in New Orleans. It's tough. I mean, the Jags, ETN just has been crazy recently.
He's been so good on my fantasy team.
Yeah. So who wins, Jacksonville or New Orleans?
I don't know. Trevor Lawrence is a little banged up. I think if T-Law doesn't play, they obviously will not win the game. It says he's very likely to play on Thursday. We'll see
I think he's going to play.
I think he is, but we'll see what capacity he plays in. I will take the Jags, but as a stipulation, if Trevor Lawrence does not play, they're not winning.
I'm taking the Saints at home. I'm taking the Saints at home. I've been to a New Orleans home game. Now, the Dolphins won, of course, but they have a much better quarterback playing than Ian Book, which is the game I went to for the Saints.
Damn, Ian Book. Notre Dame.
Yeah. Remember that Monday night game?
Yeah, that was ugly.
I think the Saints win. I think the Saints, Alvin Kamara's back, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave are healthy. David Carr is hopefully his shoulder's feeling better. He can actually throw a ball more than 20 yards downfield. Um, yeah, I'm taking the Saints. I'm taking the Saints. I think the Saints get it done.
Interesting. I mean, I've been a Jags supporter for the last like I don't know how long. I've been pro Jags on this podcast, so I'm not picking against the Saints.
We've got Lions and Ravens. The best game in the 1 o'clock spot is definitely this one. Lions Ravens. Do you think the Lions get it done?
I'm gonna go back to my old tactic, and I'm gonna take the Baltimore Ravens to win this game. Um,
Ooh, okay.
well, hey, if they win, then I get a point on my record, and if they lose, the Lions win. So, uh, I got a tactic here, man.
Hmm.
Happy somehow. I do think the Ravens. I don't. Fuck it. Give me the Lions. I'm not betting against them. Give me the Lions. I think their rush defense is going to be too good. Um, they have the best rush defense in the league. We'll see if Lamar Jackson throws a wrench into it because they haven't played a rushing quarterback yet. So we'll see if that's able to hold up. But there's nothing offensively really other than Mark Andrews that scares me on Baltimore. I think this is another prove it game for Jared Goff with like 300 yards and a couple of touchdowns. I'm feeling good about it. I probably shouldn't be feeling good about it, but I'm feeling good about a Lions win.
I'm taking Baltimore. I'm taking Baltimore. I'm sorry. I think the Lions are a good team. I think if they win this game, like I said, I'm looking very happy for them in January.
But
If it
like
was in Detroit,
even if they lose though, like you're like, oh no, actually these guys aren't good.
no, it's not about good. It's about like being a serious Super Bowl contender. You know,
I feel like they
that's what
can
I mean.
lose this game and still be a serious Super Bowl contender.
No, they could be a serious NFC. It's conference versus Super Bowl. Like I think if they beat the Ravens on the road, I believe them to go to Philly, go to San Francisco, and win those games. That's the difference. Versus if they lose, then I think they
But
go to
they've
them and they lose.
but they've
Where
already
versus it's at
proved
home.
it. They've already beaten the Chiefs at
No, because
home
the
week
Chiefs.
one.
If it wasn't for Brian Branch's pick six, which I mean it was great, and
Great
also
pick
the
six.
refs being blind and not knowing which the false start on Jawan Taylor,
Yeah,
but I think the Chiefs. I mean, think about it. Since that game, the Chiefs have been amazing. So
but the Chiefs didn't win the game. The Lions did. So
you're right. You're 100% right. Speaking of the Chiefs, they're the best game in the 4 o'clock window. Again, we're really grasping at straws here. We're not even talking about the Monday night game. Chargers go to Kansas City.
oh my God, this is the game we're picking. Jesus Christ,
Four
how
o'clock.
bad?
It's it's
How
it's,
bad
it's
is this
the
week?
Jim Nance and Tony Romo are going to this
Oh
game.
my God, this is
Yep.
awful. The
Tony
Chiefs.
Romo just gets the guzzles on
I don't
Mahomes.
even need to break this game down. The Chiefs win. It's not even gonna be close. The Chargers are pathetic this year. They just lost to the Cowboys, who I think are bad at home.
Yeah.
The Chiefs.
That,
You did not
that's
just.
exactly why I'm picking the Chargers.
Jesus Christ, this fucking guy.
Divisional game, the Chargers. We've said it. They're 2-4. They need to win a game to get their season back on track. Austin Eckler will be another game removed from his injury. I'm taking the Chargers. I'm picking the Chargers on the road.
You do that. You go ahead and do that. That's crazy.
Now, easily the best game of the doc, and the last game we'll talk about before we sign off. Dolphins going to Philly, Sunday night football. Philly's wearing their Kelly green, black or green, whatever puke colored uniforms that everyone
Those ugly
loves.
ass ones.
Dolphins probably wearing their whites because they won't be allowed to wear any other color. Do the Dolphins prove to the world that they can win? You tell me.
No. I
No,
think
you're
they
taking the
fall short.
Eagles.
I'm going to take the Eagles. The Eagles are coming off an embarrassing loss to the Jets. I think A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are about to cook this secondary. The defense
Yep.
for Miami has been sus all year. It hasn't been the best. Jalen Ramsey hopefully is coming back soon. It's probably going to be a high score. It'll be a fun game. I know that.
Yep.
I just I I don't trust the Dolphins defense until they like actually stop a good team because they got scored on by Carolina. They've got scored on by obviously Buffalo put up almost 50 on them. The Chargers put
Chargers,
up 34 or whatever. So
36. Yeah.
the defense has been not good. We're about to see how not good they are against Philly.
I'm taking the Dolphins, man. We're disagreeing with every NFL pick.
And
So
well,
one of us is
this
going
will
to
be a
take a big
swing week
advantage.
here. Unless we
Yeah,
both
this is
go
going to be a
two and
big
two.
swing week.
Unless we go 2 and 2 and just split it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think this is the time for the Dolphins offense. I think Jalen Waddle's going to have a big game because you know they're going to put Slay on Tyreek. You know they're going to do double coverage, bracket him. They're not going to have Tyreek let a great game. I think it's Jalen Waddle. I think Chase Claypool plays. I think you're going to have Mostert and Jeff Wilson play. I think Jalen Phillips comes back. I like the Dolphins, man. I think they can outscore more than the Eagles.
Homer.
I literally have a Xavier Howard jersey hanging behind me.
Homer alert.
I'm a Dolphins season ticket member. Where's my jersey? Where's my shirt? So, yeah, I think it's the Dolphins. It's the Dolphins' time to shine.
I mean, I hope they win. I just Philly coming off of that loss scares me.
Yeah. It shows me that if the Jets can beat them, I think the Dolphins can beat them too.
Yeah,
But I
but
think,
I don't know. In Philly's tough. If it was in Miami, maybe it swings the other way. But
yeah, that's it for this week, unless there's anything else you want to add.
oh, that's I. We definitely missed a lot of stuff, but probably
It's
nothing
okay.
too important.
Yeah, we didn't miss anything crazy. I mean, we missed the entire
Oh
basketball.
yeah,
Mikael Bridges might be arrested again.
yeah.
Kai Jones is released because he's probably going to get arrested.
Basketball doesn't start for another week or so.
Yeah, we got time. Hockey just started. The Panthers went 1-2 to start, but that's whatever. But we will get you back with episode 40 coming next week, live to YouTube, Spotify, definitely not TikTok.
Oh,
We'll
we gotta
get you
we gotta
go.
start a TikTok, bro. We gotta get the engagement up. We gotta start doing
Yeah.
TikTok dances and shit. That's
Yeah,
what we're gonna
fuck.
do. We're gonna do weekly predictions. Whoever loses the prediction has to make a fucking TikTok dance.
That would be a good thing to do, actually. That would. Until next time, next week, I'm Alex.
I'm Taylor.
We'll see you then.